History 101.
Altered Beast is one of those arcade games that stays relevant in many a Sega gamer's mind, but is never thought about too much. Basically, that's because if we think too hard about it, the game will reveal that it's not all that great. Despite this fact, the 1987 classic never received a sequel and was ported to just about every console in history. We liked it that way. It was simple, and Sega decided to screw it all up with a reboot. Altered Beast on the PlayStation 2 was released in 2005. If you've never seen or heard of this game before, that's because it reviewed so poorly in both Japan and Europe that the North American release was cancelled. Ask anyone in Europe and you'll receive a bare-bones response of, well, it's just not that good. Well, I don't know about you, but these screens look pretty awesome to me. So I did the dangerous task of importing a copy and getting it to run on my PlayStation 2. Even if you don't have an emulator, you can run Altered Beast on a North American console with little modification. You will of course need to be able to play imports via a boot disk, a mod chip, or a soft mod, but once it runs, you're good to go. Normally these PAL territory games need some sort of tweaking in our NTSC territories, and the conversion's always imperfect. Fortunately, around this time, the PAL 60Hz format was becoming popular, so provided you select 60Hz on the startup screen, it should run just fine. With that behind me, I sat down to play through Altered Beast and see if it really is as bad as they say. Yep, it totally is. It starts off good enough, with a 3D rendered world that you can explore in, and almost immediately you find a genome file that allows you to transform into the wolf. The animations when your character turns are much more visceral than the flame-covered transitions of the original. Now your character's skin and body basically rip apart as he turns, often adding gruesome details like his eyes popping out. Even though I must have seen this animation nearly 100 times in my first few hours with the game, they never seem to get old. Off to a good start. I felt good about this title. And then it proceeds to disappoint in a horrendous downhill slope that had me finally walking away after only 3 hours. First of all, the combat is clunky and your character moves somewhat awkwardly. I remember at least that part of the arcade game being spot on and without problems. But why does your character now have to be all shirtless and ripped? I mean, it's not like that in the original game.
Power up. Power up.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, so Sega's keeping up with tradition on this one. But what about those enemy attacks? In this new title, they can literally tie you up and volley you for multiple hits while you frantically try to free yourself to no avail. That kind of thing never happened in the arcade game. Oh wait. Yeah, it did. That was one of the more annoying parts of not only the arcade version, but every home port. Fine. I can see that this is harnessing the prowess of the original then. But then you get into the maps. It's like you're basically moving from point A to point B in a straight line. There's no use of the open areas. I mean, it's like you're walking from left to right. Alright, so I guess it's doing a fine job of capturing the original. But what about those boss battles? They're nothing more than large lumbering beasts that are either frustratingly slow-paced or ridiculously easy. I mean, back in the difficult days of the arcade, it's not like there were... Oh. Right. It was a series of easy boss battles mixed with a few annoying slow-paced fights. Well, that does it. I guess I concede. The reboot of Altered Beast, much like the original arcade game, captures the look and feel perfectly of that 1987 classic. It just turns out that neither's all that good of a game. I have to tell you, all comparisons and kidding aside, that the biggest flaw of this game is that it is repetitive and obtusely controlled. The enemies recycle, there are tons of them, and each level is padded heavily with a lack of variety to the encounters. What you're doing in level 1 is identical to what you're doing in level 5, except that you'll be expected to use one of your beast's special moves for a single obstacle, and then it's back to the old drawing board again until the next obstacle. With 15 levels to conquer and me taking more than 3 hours to get through the first 5, I just knew this game was going to get way worse before it got any better. I walked away not because I was challenged, but because I was bored. There are too many other great games out there, especially on the PlayStation 2, that I couldn't waste another minute messing with Altered Beast. If you're interested in the least, let this and other videos of this game serve to you as a warning. I was even going to throw up a long play video for reference, but I would think that would be too boring for anyone to want to watch. In the end, you definitely want to skip this game.